Hi, Church. Pastor Jeff here with another Trinity check-in. This is probably going to be a long video. I'm going to try not to make it be too long. However, there's something so important going on, and I want you all to know about it and be aware of it. Here's the short version. There has been a development in the scholarly world that I believe to be not only incredibly important for the study of the Bible itself, but I believe it to be one of the biggest things that's happened to women's equality in the church, not just in generations, in millennia, in centuries. I mean, I'm serious. This would seem to me to be that big, and we'll see how it sticks around and develops. So if you're interested in seeing how the sausage is made with the Bible text itself and the Bibles that we hold, stick around. And if you're interested in women's equality, stick around too, because this really is a big one. Now, this is a story that I've shared in church briefly once or twice. It's a little detailed to get into the nitty-gritty. One of these Wednesday videos a couple of years ago, I shared more, and one of my Ignite classes, we did a deep dive on this as well. But let me see if I can give you the short version. The scholar here is Elizabeth Schrader Pulitzer, and she did not start out a scholar. She was a singer, and she wrote a song about Mary Magdalene. She even tells the story of how she went and bought, I kid you not, The Idiot's Guide to Mary Magdalene to start learning about her. And she felt a pull, what some might describe as a call from God to follow Mary. It is incredible to listen to her story. Let's just say she not only went deep, she went so deep that she went to got her a master's degree and then her PhD. She got published by Harvard before her PhD was even complete. That never happens. And now even more. Here is what she found. So, before I get to what she found, let me say a word or two about how the Bible text is translated. Now, I think most of us know that the way the Bible has survived for so long, at least through the Middle Ages, were monks. It was the work of many monks to sit in their scriptoriums and to copy Bibles, copy the Bible text by hand. And it's interesting to see how they did it. In seminary, at least in my seminary, you had to choose between Greek and Hebrew. It was quite difficult to do both. This is kind of the standard text that you use, and you can see most of the Hebrew text, but do you see these markings on the side? If you're a computer nerd like I am, it's basically a checksum. It's an error checking protocol that they used to keep the text accurate. And and if you've ever played the whisper game, you know what I mean by the whisper game, where you whisper a secret to the person next to you and you go around the circle and see how much it's changed by the end. It's a lot. Part of what's remarkable is how little the Bible has changed. The Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered in the 40s, and everybody was a bit worried because here was a copy of Bible text that was earlier than anything that we had access to, and we discovered that it had changed very little. So part of that is the care of the monks, and I think probably even more of that is the Holy Spirit guiding the whole process. But it's not perfect. That's a part of what scholars chase down, is looking for the little things that do manage to make their way in. You know, my favorite is Ecclesiastes. It's not only a good example, but it's one of my favorite books of the Bible. And it begins by crediting the book to Solomon. Well, we actually have evidence from when the books of the Bible were being put together in the 3rd and 4th century that Ecclesiastes was in danger of not making it into the canon, into the Bible, and that they added that bit about Solomon in order to keep it in the Bible. Now, that doesn't change what God is saying through it all, but, you know, finding these little stories like that, that's part of what the scholars do. Okay, so part of what Elizabeth Schrader Pulitzer found was what she found about Mary comes from John chapter 11. Now, maybe you know the story of Lazarus who died, and Jesus comes and Jesus raises him from the grave. It in many ways prefigures Jesus' own resurrection that's to come shortly. Now, do you remember the family members of Lazarus who were there at the time in John 11? Well, our Bible says that it was Mary and Martha. Now, maybe you remember Mary and Martha from Luke's Gospel. They were the ones where Martha was busy with many things, getting things ready in the kitchen. Mary chose the better part, as it said, and sat at Jesus' feet. I think the real meaning of the story is that both of those roles are very important, but those names, Mary and Martha, are the same ones that are used in John. Well, part of what Elizabeth Schrader Polzer discovered was that when you actually go back and look at the various fragments of papyrus and whatnot that we have of the Gospel of John, there's a pattern. Now, there are some of them that are just like what we see now, but there are quite a few of them that are not. There are actually quite a few of them that have a word crossed out that's illegible and Martha written in, and that have every place where the word sisters is used, the S is added later. Now, isn't that interesting? When you look at the nature of the corrections, it is quite clear that that Martha was added. That some versions of these early texts only had one woman in this story, Lazarus' sister Mary. Now, in that case, it would be Mary Magdalene who was the woman in this story, not Mary and Martha. Okay, so that's fine. You know, maybe it wasn't two sisters, maybe it was just one. Why does this really matter? Well, why it matters comes from one of the verses in the story, and I just realized that the notes I have in front of me, I forgot a page, so I'm going to wing it for the rest of this video and see if I can remember. So, I don't remember the actual verse, but what happens? Oh, there it is. Nope. Okay, I'll do it from memory. So when you go to John chapter 11, what happens at one point in the story is Jesus is talking to Mary, and Mary gives what's called, ready for this, big word time, the Christological confession. She says, Jesus, I believe that you are the Messiah, that you are the Christ who has come to save us. Now, this is loaded language when it comes to the Gospels. The Gospel writers use this statement, to say who Jesus is, the ones who figure it out, who see it, to show only the most important people that are in the story. And in the version that's changed on many of those ancient manuscripts, it gives that speech to Martha instead. And by so doing, it softens Mary Magdalene's role and makes her smaller in the story by spreading out the weight of all of these important moments that happens. What it implies is that if it was Mary Magdalene who gave the Christological confession, it means that John, the Gospel writer, was holding her pretty much on par with Peter. And in fact, it begins to imply, if you take it only a step further, that Magdalene wasn't a description of where she was from. Magdalene means tower, and so it might be used to say that she was from the town with the tower. That's how it's usually interpreted, even though the town that's currently called Magdala did not receive that name until after Bible times. We'll leave that out of it for a moment. What it begins to imply is that perhaps, this is another step out, but perhaps Mary was given a title by Jesus in a similar way to the way Peter was. Jesus gave Peter the nickname the Rock, and on you I will build my church, and that Peter tradition is the one that continues in the Pope, in the Roman Catholic Church today. It implies that perhaps he called Mary the Tower and put her on par with Peter. Do you see how big this change is? To say that there was only one woman in that story is remarkable. And it's not just those early texts, those early manuscripts either. When you look at early artwork on sarcophagi and in tombs and crypts and things like that, when they oftentimes include the Lazarus story because of the resurrection that's in it. And when In a great many of them, there is only one woman pictured. Now, we can't prove this. Without a time machine, we can't prove this. And it doesn't matter it doesn't matter how you get to be called doctor. The sonic screwdriver isn't a real thing. You're welcome, fellow nerds. What it does mean, however, is that we have overwhelming evidence that there were at least two versions of this story circulating, and it is at least very, very, very possible that John's telling of Jesus' story shows Mary's stature way, way higher than the church has treated it over the years, perhaps even on par with the great Peter himself. Now, isn't that remarkable? The new news, change this big to the Bible. Now, it's just a couple of words, right? However, it's conceptually a big, big change. I believe firmly that can't happen overnight, no matter how good it is, no matter how obvious it may seem. Like, it takes generations to change something as core to us as the Bible. It's not something that can happen quickly. And so if this continues to be talked about, if evidence continues to be discovered in generations, then I think we'll see what God has been doing all along. However, the new news that's come out is from München, from Munich, and there's a committee that meets there that puts together the standard Greek New Testament. I showed you earlier my Hebrew Bible from seminary. Do you see all these bits at the bottom? These are notes, and this is the short version. These are just the most important of the notes. It's what's studied by seminary students, and when Bible translators meet, they use this and the long version to try to make their decisions when it comes to translating the Bible. Well, the Greek version of this, the committee was about to put out a new version of the Greek New Testament that they make, that is the gold standard for it. And they invited Elizabeth Schrader Pulitzer to come and present to them. And she did. I believe she said it was last October. And now, as they're getting ready to put it out, they are including her work in those notes. Now, it's a little more nuanced. If you want, I'm going to link to a video in the email this comes in, and you can listen to her talk about it herself. But that is unbelievable. What that means is that there is that's a huge step in her research going out into the scholarly community and in what happens. And it means that the next round of Bible translations that happens down the road is likely going to include a footnote that says something like, many ancient manuscripts do not include Martha, or something like that. This is how scholarly work. That may not sound like much, but it is, and it begins to turn the tide, and it begins to show what I personally believe is God's intent for women's role in the church and in society all along. And when you hear Elizabeth Schrader Pulitzer's story, you can see you can almost feel the Holy Spirit written over the whole thing. Can you hear the passion in my voice? This is exciting, especially to an academically minded person like me. Like this sort of thing is already happening way faster than this kind of academic work usually happens, and it's beautiful and so full of hope to watch. If you're interested, in this email, I'm going to link to the video. Diana Butler Bass is a prominent Christian author and a scholar herself. She's been championing this for some time, and she's the one who put out an interview with Elizabeth Schrader Pulitzer just last week about this. And she tells the story of going to speak to the committee putting together the new edition of the Greek New Testament. It's great to watch. If you're interested, click on the link, and if you want, follow the rabbit trail from there and other links on Diana Butler Bass's Substack, and you can find some of the other videos of Elizabeth Schrader Pulitzer talking about her work. It's fascinating to watch, and I hope it shows you the way that that God can do new things that have been old all along. The ways that God can make known to us what have been growing in our midst all this time. And I hope it fills you with tremendous hope for the church, for the Bible, and for our own lives too, because it's just one example of what God does in us all. All right. If you have any questions or want to talk about this, you can guess that I'm very passionate and would love to talk more about it. Send me an email. Hit reply to the email this comes in, or whatever way, and we will talk. In the meantime, I hope you are doing well. I'll see you soon, church.